whisper into Richard K's ear. Sometimes we actually saw her getting out of his car. But I think that Meghan thinks she is the second coming of Princess Diana, and she's trying to curate her own headlines. So she's overloading us so that people like you and I can't sit here for 2 weeks and talk about the tour.
It all went down at the 2025 BET Awards, and no one, not even Meghan Markle herself, could have predicted what would unfold. Kevin Hart took the stage, ready to deliver his usual brand of sharp comedy. But when he turned his attention to Meghan, the crowd went silent, then erupted in laughter. With perfect timing, he quipped, "You know what I love about Meghan Markle? She's like a Pinterest board that came to life and then hired a PR team to filter it." The room exploded. Phones were out and social media went wild. Hashtag Meg was trending within seconds. People were shocked, but in hindsight, it wasn't that surprising. Meghan's image, so carefully cultivated over the years, has been under fire for months. From her Netflix docuseries, which critics labeled a Pinterest fail on steroids, to her overly curated social media presence, the cracks have started to show. But this moment wasn't just about a comedian cracking a joke. It was a mirror, reflecting the shifting perception of Meghan Markle, a woman once adored by millions, but now the subject of ridicule on one of the biggest stages in entertainment.
That she is under the impression that that went in her way, that was a huge success for her. I think that she thinks she's like Princess Diana and curating her own headlines, and she does things like the Disney
Meghan Markle's been riding high on her own media wave, but it's becoming clear the tide is turning. For months now, her every move has sparked more criticism than admiration. Her carefully curated image, once seen as fresh and empowering, is now being called out for feeling too manufactured. From her much criticized Netflix series, Love Meghan, with its overly polished aesthetic and questionable symbolism, to her social media posts that seem more like product placements than authentic moments, the cracks in her brand are showing. Kevin Hart's roast didn't just happen in a vacuum, it's the culmination of a pattern. Meghan's attempts to position herself as a champion of causes have often seemed more like calculated PR moves than genuine activism. And it's not just critics in tabloids or online, Hollywood insiders are starting to whisper. What was once seen as an inspiring narrative of a woman breaking free from royal constraints is now being questioned as nothing more than a strategic, self-serving performance. Even the fans who once rallied behind her are beginning to ask the tough questions. Is this the Meghan we thought we knew? Or is it all just a well-crafted act?
Weird. She shuts down the twerking criticism. Now she's Mommy of the Year. But also, why do we get 30,000 posts for the daughter and 1 for the son? Like, clearly there's a favorite there.
Yeah, that's a good, I hadn't thought about that.
As if the roast wasn't enough, Meghan Markle's snub at the 2025 BET Awards hit even harder. Meghan's name had been on the short list of hopefuls, but the organizers reportedly made a quiet decision. She wasn't going to be part of the celebration. The reason? Her presence was seen as a potential distraction from the event's focus on real Black excellence. Meghan, who once dreamed of transcending royal status and entering Hollywood's inner circle, found herself locked out of a space she once thought would embrace her. The rejection stung, and Meghan's team quickly scrambled to explain it away. First, whispers about a scheduling conflict began to circulate. Then came vague reports about her busy schedule and new projects, including a rumored rosé wine and plans for a hotel chain. But the truth was much simpler and more humiliating. Meghan's request to attend had been quietly rejected, and her name didn't even make it past the first round of planning. For someone who's accustomed to walking into high-profile events with fanfare and flashbulbs, this public rejection was a slap in the face. It was a harsh reminder that Hollywood, and even events like the BET Awards, aren't buying the Meghan Markle brand anymore.
Papers saying that her view of this, she's now developed this antipathy towards Britain.
Behind the polished smiles, the carefully curated photos, and the endless headlines, there's a real Meghan Markle, and it's becoming harder to ignore. Her brand, once celebrated as an authentic, relatable voice, is now seen by many as a carefully constructed facade. Critics have long pointed out that her activism often feels more like a marketing strategy than a genuine cause. Her social media accounts, once a place of connection, now read more like a brand manager's dream, filled with perfectly staged moments and products for sale. What's even more troubling is how the public is starting to catch on. The image of the down-to-earth humanitarian, the Duchess who understood the struggles of everyday people, has been overshadowed by a more cynical version of herself, one that appears more focused on building a brand than truly making a difference. The backlash isn't just from tabloids or online haters. Even industry insiders are speaking up. Comedian Katherine Ryan, known for her sharp commentary, has openly criticized Meghan for her lack of clear purpose, calling her attempts at social justice more about fame and money than real impact. The authenticity Meghan once projected is slipping away, replaced by a brand that's too overpolished, too strategic, and, in many eyes, too fake.
She loves the fame game, but the spin-off from it is it might help her sell her products.
Well, will it?
Well, it may not, but there's obviously some kind of game plan in that direction. You know, make a noise, get talked about, maybe you can flog some stuff.
Meghan Markle's fall from grace has been nothing short of dramatic. Once hailed as Hollywood's royal crossover, she's now the punchline of jokes and the subject of ridicule. Her efforts to rebrand herself, moving from royalty to celebrity, from humanitarian to influencer, have started to feel increasingly hollow. The carefully crafted image of a progressive, relatable icon has been replaced by something less appealing. A woman desperate for attention, but unable to keep the world interested. Her recent Netflix docuseries, Love Meghan, which was meant to showcase her personal life and causes, only exposed the cracks in her carefully built persona. The sugary aesthetic, the forced authenticity, the obsession with perfect optics, audiences saw through it all. Critics weren't just laughing at the pastel colors and quirky props. They were laughing because Meghan had made herself a caricature of the very thing she once claimed to fight against. With Kevin Hart's roast, the Hollywood snub at the BET Awards, and the relentless online mockery, it's clear that Meghan's once inspiring narrative has shifted. She's no longer the woman who captivated hearts worldwide. She's the subject of a cautionary tale about the dangers of branding over authenticity.
So launching a rosé wine, Chateau Meghan. That's my name for it. I'm not sure what she'll call it.
I can't say what I'd call it on your. I don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah. Chateau Meghan. She's also talking about opening hotels.
Yeah.
Just massively brand.
The tide has turned for Meghan Markle, and the media is no longer playing her game. Once celebrated by the press as a beacon of modern royalty, Meghan now finds herself under constant scrutiny. Her calculated media presence, once seen as empowering, is now being met with skepticism and ridicule. Where once she was admired for her royal escape and subsequent rise as a Hollywood figure, she's now seen as out of touch, her image too tightly managed, too much of a performance. The shift in the media is stark. Outlets that once championed Meghan's every move are now calling out her carefully crafted persona. No longer is she the relatable Duchess next door. Instead, she's being framed as a celebrity chasing fame and fortune at any cost. Her attempts to redefine herself through glossy interviews, exclusive deals, and viral moments are starting to feel like a desperate grab for relevance. Even Hollywood, once her biggest cheerleader, is distancing itself. The BET Awards snub wasn't just an isolated incident, it was a signal. When events designed to celebrate diversity and inclusion reject someone who once embodied those values, it's clear that her carefully curated narrative isn't resonating anymore. The world is watching, and it's not buying what Meghan is selling.
You know, I think I texted you, bipolar, schizophrenia. I mean, and I'm not diagnosing this woman. I'm just saying, as an observer, she seems to have no clear goal other than fame and money. It just seems like she's throwing everything.
Meghan Markle's future in the public eye is rapidly dimming, and it's hard to ignore the signs. Despite her best efforts to rebrand, whether it's through another docuseries, a podcast, or even launching her own rosé, nothing seems to stick. Each new venture is met with the same skepticism that's grown louder over the years. The world is moving on, and Meghan is finding it increasingly difficult to stay relevant in an industry where authenticity is king. What's next for Meghan? Another round of PR stunts? More hand-wringing about how she's misunderstood by the public? At this point, it doesn't matter unless she confronts what's been painfully clear for some time. The public is tired. Tired of the glossy press releases. Tired of the endless product promotions. Tired of the perfect, curated image that feels like it's hiding the real Meghan behind layers of brand strategy. Her fall from grace has been slow, but it's undeniable now. From once being hailed as a modern fairy tale, Meghan's story is beginning to feel more like a tragedy. And unless she can reinvent herself, this time with authenticity at the core, her decline will be just as inevitable as her rise.
Making these announcements herself in Fast Company magazine in this glorified profile, which was like, I mean, I puked in my mouth. It was so it was so over the top generous to her. And then she's telling Beyonce's mom, I think I'm gonna hold up. And then Beyonce's mom's like, that's weird, but okay. And then
Meghan Markle's once glamorous path from royalty to Hollywood stardom is now a cautionary tale about the dangers of a brand overrun by strategy and self-promotion. The BT Awards snub, the relentless online mockery, and the comedy roast were all painful, but necessary reminders that public perception is shifting. What was once seen as a woman redefining herself has now become the spectacle of a woman trying and failing to hold on to relevance in an ever-changing world. This isn't just about missed opportunities or failed projects. It's about authenticity. Meghan's attempts to manufacture a narrative that's more about branding than real connection have backfired, and the world is starting to take notice. What was once considered inspiring and fresh now feels increasingly staged and forced. The public has moved on, and the entertainment industry, once eager to embrace her, is starting to close its doors. Meghan Markle's story is far from over, but her carefully constructed empire is crumbling. And if she doesn't confront the truth behind her public persona, her fall from grace will be even more profound. Hollywood and the world are watching, and the applause is long gone. What's next for Meghan? Only time will tell, but one thing is clear. The world is no longer buying what she's selling.